There we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for our Cancel Student Debt Town Hall webinar, whatever you want to call it. We are here to give you as much information as we had to this point, and we will have an extended Q&A at the second half of this workshop. So not to worry, the chat is actually disabled right now for our opening speakers, but it will be opened up right after that. We are here to take your questions and answer as many as we can, again, with the information that we know now. And we're just going to give it a few minutes for folks to sign on. All right, I believe more folks are joining. There we go. Yes, we have a huge group, 1,300 of us. We know how important this information is and how, frankly, starved for information you are. We hope to answer, again, as many questions for those of you that we can. Just going to give it another minute, and then we will get started for folks to join on. For folks that don't know, my name is Natalia Abrams. I'm the president here at Student Debt Crisis Center. Many of you have joined us before. You may be noticing right now the chat is disabled. Not to worry, within the next few minutes, after we get through our initial speakers, we will be going to the chat to answer as many of your questions as possible. And actually with that, why don't we get started with our first speaker? So today we're here to talk to you about President Biden's recent announcement on canceling student debt to cancel $10,000 to $20,000 for people making under $125,000. To give you the information again of what we know now, what action you can take, and then we will be introducing a new program so you can help us take more action. But first, we want to hear from a borrower that and our outreach director that her family will do considerably well with this new announcement. And I know, Sabrina, you're really excited for what's to come. So I'm going to toss it to you for a little bit to just talk about your experience and how President Biden's new announcement will aid you.
Thanks, Natalia. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. As Natalia said, my name is Sabrina Calazans, and I'm the Director of Outreach here at Student Debt Crisis Center. So part of my job is to speak with student loan borrowers every day. And I just hear a little bit about how student loan debt impacts them and their families every day. But I also know that on a personal level, as I'm a student loan borrower myself. And so I know that President Biden's decision to cancel student debt is a historic one, and it's going to help so many families, including my own. The president's decision means that 2/3 of my student debt will be canceled. It means that all of my sister's student debt will be canceled. And that means that almost all of my dad's Parent Plus loans will be canceled. So that's $50,000 worth of relief for my family alone. And I know that this is going to be a huge decision that will impact millions of families across the country. I believe it's about 20 million borrowers who will have their debts completely erased. But we know that there are actually 43 million borrowers out there. And so we're not going to stop fighting for those who still have balances remaining until every single dollar is canceled. But it's important that you're joining us here today and that you're learning about the options that are available, about how you can apply and what steps you can take so that you can help those in your community, whether it's your family, your loved ones, friends, neighbors, church members, people in your network, colleagues, whoever it may be. This information can change so many lives. So I highly suggest, if you have a notebook, a pen, for you to take notes. We will have a recording of this afterwards as well and have resources that are accessible. However, this is just a lot of really great information. We have some really great people who will be joining us. And so I'm really excited for today's call. So thank you again for joining us. This is a really great first step We know there's a long way to go, but for millions of people, this is going to be life-changing. So I'm going to toss it back to Natalia, and really excited to be here today.
Great. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And I think, what your family is set to receive is amazing. And then also, you really pointed out that this is historic. I've been working in this space for a decade now. And while we know so many of you feel that this may be a drop in the bucket, it is important to note that if done correctly, more than 20 million people will see all of their debt wiped out. And a lot of people, like your family, will see the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll finally have a loan balance that is more manageable. And you're absolutely right. We are going to continue fighting till every single dollar is free. And then once we get that, or simultaneously, we have to make college free so we do not run into this problem and have another $2 trillion crisis again. So I absolutely agree with that. We are hoping to have a special guest join us, but I think until then, we'll get started with the information. And then when our guest comes, if we can incorporate them, great. So with that, I will pass it to you, Cody, to kick us off.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalia. And Sabrina, thank you for sharing your story. Like you, I am one of these borrowers who's going to receive some relief from this cancellation plan. And like many of you joining us today, I have a lot of questions, and I work on student debt every single day. So I really hope after today's workshop, we've answered the questions that we can, and that we've given you the right next steps to be able to kind of stay in the loop so we can keep you all informed. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We are going to discuss President Biden's plan for student debt cancellation. Just a few weeks ago, in fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago today, the president.
Hello, everybody. It's Chuck Schumer.
Here's our special guest. Perfect time.
Sorry, I'm a little late. We're voting on some very nice, good judges.
No worries, Senator. We know you have a very busy schedule, but thank you so much for joining our Cancel Student Debt Town Hall and our what people are going to learn, our launch of our SDCC Ambassador Program to get as many people into this fight as possible.
Good.
The Senator, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Natalia. I guess Natalia is just, for everyone on this Zoom, she is the greatest. She has been relentless. She has never given up. When there is adversity, she didn't let it stop her, but she didn't let it change her positive attitude either. And I can't thank her enough for her leadership. And I want to thank everyone at the Student Debt Crisis Center. You were sort of the mainstay, and now we've made history. We reached our goal of getting Biden to announce student debt relief for millions and millions of Americans. Everywhere I went, I marched in the West Indian Day Parade, which is one of the biggest parades in America on Labor Day. And people stopped me along the way, young people, older people, poor people, middle-class people, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the best news we've received. We can breathe easier. So this is great stuff. And the money that usually goes down to paying student loan debt will now be used for other things, like buying a car or going to a restaurant, pumping that money into the economy. But most of all, our students and our debt holders are going to be relieved. So that is great. And so I want to be clear, the president's announcement would not have been possible without you, without Natalia, and without Student Debt Crisis. You shared your stories. And I was, Sabrina, I don't know if Sabrina's gone on yet, but she has a great and amazing story, and she told it to all the people of New York at a press conference we had a week and a half ago. But everyone shared stories, raised awareness, made it clear to the president and the country that this is a crisis that we have to deal with, one that holds America back from its full potential. So I hope everyone has savored, even for a moment, the victory you've secured, because it really was, in the way the president talks about it, a big effing deal. Now we still have a lot of work to do, and that's why I'm so glad you're continuing. We have to, in the coming months, we have to make sure that every single American who qualifies for relief can take advantage of the president's announcement, not simply the $10,000 or $20,000 of cancellation, but the new programs that are going to be much more easily run and smoothly run, that will limit the percentage of income you pay, that will tell those who are in public service and nonprofits how they get more relief. So we have a lot of educating to do, and I am doing that. In fact, I sent a letter to 100 churches this weekend, are going to read them to let their or at some point they're going to let it's not this weekend, they're going to let their congregants know about everything. About 43 million people qualify for cancellation. And the administration announced that the applications are going to be launched in October. So we have to have everybody ready to know what it is, to know it's not like the old bureaucracy, which made it so different, and make it happen. It's like running a campaign. And we need you once again to organize, to spread the word, and to get people to take that crucial step of applying for relief. It's a big task, but after what we've done, of course we can get this done. And the grouches on the other side who say student debt relief is only about helping the wealthy is such utter bull. As you know, more than half the people, about half the people of student debt have no wealth whatsoever. The 90% of the debt goes to people making below $75,000. So don't believe they're just mean, nasty, jealous. What can I tell you? Anyone who can't take joy in seeing someone else get that relief, even if they couldn't, they're not the kind of human beings I appreciate when they do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. None of you need any extra motivation, but here's what will happen if everyone takes full advantage of the president's proposed action. 20 million borrowers, 20 million will see their debt entirely wiped out. 27 million will get up to $20,000 in cancellation. And remember, 90% of the debt, as I said, is going to people earning less than $75,000. So I applaud the Student Debt Crisis Center. You're already spreading the word. Everyone should get to work. Let's do it. And let's just celebrate our joy and make sure we share that joy by everybody doing this thing, getting it done. So thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, everybody. And I'm always available, like the Brooklyn Car Service, always available, 449-1111. Call me when you need me. We'll be continuing the fight together.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. And a good colleague of mine said that the reason the other side is so loud is because they know they lost.
Exactly.
So, and we won.
And we won. You betcha.
So
Thanks,
thank you so
everybody.
much. Appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. We're going to now go back to the slide deck, and Cody and Kira, take it away. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm glad the senator could hop in and share those words. You know, as we've been responding to the president's announcement, part of this effort to educate is also an effort to inform the public. And that really means, you know, applauding this announcement, praising the relief people will get, and being really, frankly, a cheerleader for this type of policy. And the senator has been on our side each step of the way when it comes to that front. So happy to hear from him. All right, so let's get into the information. I was just telling everyone what we're going to be talking about today. So we will be discussing the president's plan for student debt cancellation. We're going to share how to stay up to date about the application process, because a lot of people are reaching out. They want to get student debt cancellation now, but there's going to be an application that needs to be released, and we're going to tell you how to stay informed. And of course, at the end, we're going to take time for Q&A. I am just now turning the chat on for everyone who's attending. So if you have questions, please submit a chat in the chat box. That goes to our hosts and panelists here, and we'll be able to field the questions that we think will help answer as many questions here as possible. One last thing here, you know, our team at Student Debt Crisis Center, we're not financial counselors or attorneys. We have Kira on, who is an attorney, but her scope is limited. So there are some questions that that we can answer clearly, and there's some questions we can't. So we totally understand the frustration. We want to answer as many as possible. We'll be honest if there's certain things that we don't have all the answers for. All right, and I see questions are piling in here, so this is great. Thank you, everyone, for submitting. We'll start pulling those out, and we'll take Q&A at the end here. All right, so what is the big news? The big news about student debt cancellation is that the president announced the first ever broad-based student debt cancellation plan that will reach millions of Americans. Now, to qualify, you have to be an individual borrower with federal student loans. And if you have federal student loans, you will receive $10,000 in student debt cancellation if you make under $125,000 a year individually. For a married couple, the combined income limit is $250,000 a year if you file your taxes jointly. Now, the president's plan went further than we even anticipated based on what the president had kind of been saying on the campaign trail. This plan went further by saying that those who received Pell Grants to pay for college would receive an additional $10,000 in student debt cancellation. So up to $20,000 total for borrowers who received Pell Grants. And again, they have to make under $125,000 a year. Just one more note there, the intention of that Pell Grant piece is to try to target this relief to those who need it most. Pell Grants, for those who don't know, is free money given to borrowers as a grant to help pay for college if they come from very low income families. So this gives those folks an even extra boost on top of that.
Cody, can I jump in before we move on? Hi, everyone. My name is Kira Taylor. I'm a staff attorney at the National Consumer Law Center. I work on student loan issues. And one thing I just want to clarify, because I'm seeing some people ask questions about what happens if they're a couple. Is it $10,000 for the couple as a whole? And I just wanted to clarify that it's $10,000 per borrower. So if there's a couple, both people within the couple received a Pell Grant, then both of those people could get up to $20,000 applied to each of their loans, meaning $40,000 of debt cancellation cumulatively. So I hope that that is helpful. But with that, Cody, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. That is very helpful. All of these details are really important. That's exactly what we're here for. Now, what does this mean for borrowers? Well, we kind of heard it already from the senator, but I just really want to highlight how powerful this program can be. There will be 43 million Americans who will benefit from some student debt cancellation because they have federal student loans. There's going to be 27 million borrowers who will receive up to $20,000 in debt cancellation because they are Pell Grant recipients, and 20 million borrowers, nearly half, are going to receive full student debt cancellation. We are going to wipe half of America's federal student debt portfolio away with just this one policy. And again, 90% of this policy will reach those who make under $75,000 a year. So this means this is really a policy for working and middle-class Americans who are really struggling to get by right now because of inflation, rising costs, and so many other issues that we're facing. So I just have to really highlight these stats because this shows you that this is a policy for people, for many people, and for those of us who are really working hardest. Okay, now with that, I am going to pass it back to Kira, who's going to jump in and kind of discuss some of the details as far as who qualifies, what the process looks like, and what we should do next.
Okay, so this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of this announcement because there are so many different types of student loans. And so the first piece is to remember here is that this announcement only applies to federal loans. There are many different types of federal loans, and you can see your federal loans when you log into your account on studentaid.gov, okay? So it also applies to direct loans that were dispersed on or before June 30th. That's subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, parent plus loans, graduate plus loans. So graduate school debt is included here, direct consolidation loans. And then there are other types of loans that are held by the federal government. So some types of federal family education loans, affectionately called FEL loans, are held by the Department of Education. They are included. There are some FEL loans that are held by commercial lenders. This program was stopped back in 2010, but those loans still exist in the world. Right now, if you have a commercial FEL loan, they are not included in this cancellation announcement. In addition, some federal Perkins loans are held by the borrower's school. And so if they're held by the Department of Education, they're included in the cancellation announcement. But if they're held by the school, they are excluded from the cancellation announcement. And then defaulted loans also count. So you may have been in default, and defaulted loans count towards cancellation here. All loans that were eligible for the pandemic-related student loan pause qualified. Those were all Department of Education held loans. So it's really huge. This is a huge population of people. Like Cody said before, it's 43 million folks who are going to receive some form of cancellation under this announcement. And then, Cody, do you want me to keep going?
Yep, keep going.
Okay, fabulous. So let's talk about what we know about the process, because here's the thing about cancellation. It's not automatic. You're going to have to apply. So if you take one thing away from this conversation, I want you to remember that there's an application process, and you're going to have to watch the studentaid.gov website very, very closely. Okay. I think everyone should be applying. There are some people that may receive cancellation automatically. These are the folks who recertified their income in an income-driven repayment plan in the last 2 years, or the folks who are in school, because folks who are in school can also receive cancellation if they submitted a FAFSA form in the last 2 years. That income information will also be used to determine whether or not the person is eligible. So the application process, it's not out yet, okay? It's going to be available in early October. And after you apply, the Department of Education is saying it's going to take about 4 to 6 weeks to process. The department and the administration are telling folks to apply before November 15th to receive relief before payments restart in January, because as part of the cancellation announcement, President Biden also said that the payment pause would end at the end of the year. The application is going to be open for the next year of time. So this is one of those things where we should all be talking about this cancellation with everybody. Go out, talk to your neighbors. I have had to restrain myself from telling the cashier at the grocery store, from telling my hairdresser, just about everybody, because there are so many people who are eligible for this relief, and they're going to miss out if they don't apply. So we can continue shouting this announcement from the rooftops for the next year, and people can apply until the end of 2023. For current students, dependents are going to, if they're a dependent student and they submitted a FAFSA, that the parent's income will be used to determine that whether or not that borrower is eligible for cancellation. In addition, consolidation is not going to affect cancellation. Now is a good time to consolidate. Some of you may have heard about the public service loan forgiveness waiver that's in effect. And people who have federal family education loans, those FFEL loans that I was talking about before, can get more eligible time towards public service loan forgiveness if they consolidate those loans. The origination date of the loan is going to be used to determine eligibility. And to get more information, you can go to studentaid.gov/debt relief to get email updates about the application. And like I was saying before, I think it's all of our job to really keep our eyes posted on that website. You're going to want to see the announcements. You're going to want to know when that application is open, so that you can apply before November 15th. And I guess the other piece that I think is helpful for all of you is what this begs for me is, well, what am I going to have to say on this application? And we don't know what the contours of the application are going to be yet. We've gotten assurances from the Department of Education that it's going to be a relatively straightforward and simple form. Borrowers are going to have to attest to their income. And it's going to be short. That's, not so many questions, but I think a lot. I haven't seen the application yet, and so unfortunately, I can't give you a lot more details about what the application is going to entail. So, what should you do in the interim? So, first things first, before we even get to these steps, I think everyone, so they're making sure that they're receiving the information from the Department of Education or their servicer, is to log into studentaid.gov and make sure that contact information is right. You want to get those emails when they're coming through. Additionally, you want to make sure that your contact information with your servicer is right. And if you don't know who your servicer is, you can log into studentaid.gov and your servicer information is there. And now we can switch to the next slide and the steps. So after you do that, those two things, you make sure your contact information is correct, both with the Department of Education and with your student loan servicer. The next thing you're going to want to do is check your eligibility. So you're eligible if your annual income was below $125,000 a year, if you're filing your taxes individually or filing separately if you're married, or $250,000 a year if you're married and filing jointly or the head of household in 2021 or 2020. The administration has said it's going to take the lesser of those 2 years. And it's your AGI, your adjusted gross income there. The next thing is that you want to log in or create an account on studentaid.gov. You want to make sure your contact info is up to date. So you're going to double check it. You're going to do it first, and then you're going to do it again. And if you move, you're going to do it a third time. And you're going to make sure your student loan servicer has your current contact information. And then again, this application, it's really, really important. You're going to remember in October, oh man, this is my time to apply. And you're going to submit an application when it's available. And again, if you forget and, late one night in, I don't know, January, you wake up and you go, oh no, I forgot to submit the application. You're going to remember, Kira said it's not too late. This application process is going to be open for a year. So you have lots of time. And again, I hope that you're going to walk away from this posting on social media about applying for cancellation, telling your cousins, your uncles, your neighbors, everybody you're running into, have you applied? Do you have student loan debt? There's this temporary one-time cancellation announcement, and you can only get the cancellation applied to your account if you apply. And then so Natalia, I'm going to hand it back to you. Oops, you're on mute.
There we go. I'll give a virtual round of applause to Kira Taylor, a wonderful staff attorney at National Consumer Law Center in CLC. We work hand in hand with them all the time. And Kira is absolutely right that, we are going to stay on the department and on the powers that be to make sure this gets done correctly for you all. But we do need your help getting the word out. And if everyone can remember, Kira said, fill out an application. As we've been talking to others, spoiler alert, there is an application process, but that, we are working to make sure it's simple, easy for you all, and that we can answer all your questions. So thank you, Kara. I know you're going to stay on to help us answer questions in just a moment. So with that, we just want to make sure that you all know that this new announcement of cancellation is on top of other programs. This is not, instead of, this is on top of. So there is still public service loan forgiveness. Public service loan forgiveness will also exist after this October 31st date. But in addition to cancellation, the department is trying to fix all of these broken programs that you have complained to us and told us, and then we told the department, and everyone's gotten very loud, and they're finally trying to do something about it. So if you were previously denied for public service loan forgiveness, or you feel like credits have not been counted, or just in case, fill out the PSLF form. There's no harm in doing that. If you are a government worker, state worker, work for a nonprofit, work at a church, fill out that application before October 31st. You can go to PSLF.gov for more information on that. And if you do that, and there's also employer certification forms, that's the best thing you can do before October 31st. But again, not to worry. The program will still exist after the 31st. Also, this is kind of in the group of stuff we don't know yet. They are revising the income-driven repayment program. These are still available and improvements are in the works. We will have more information, hopefully in our next workshop, but as soon as we get that information, we will be having more workshops to get that information to you. But this is to let you know that If payments do resume on January 1st and you didn't get all your debt canceled and you're worried about how to make your payments, there will be repayment programs so you do not fall into default. Lastly, as of now, payments are set to resume January 1st. Because of that, the department, once the form is ready, is saying if you submit your cancellation form by November 15th, you will receive the benefits before payments resume. So that's just an important deadline. And again, we will be having more of these workshops as we get closer to these deadlines, definitely when we get the form, so we can walk through that all with you as we get more information. Okay. So today, because we've all talked about spreading the word, Kara, you mentioned, not or trying not to talk to your hairstylist or barber. I will say so many people in that field have federal loan debt for cosmetology school. And frankly, a lot of their debt is 20,000 or under. So these are a big group of people, your mailman, your friends, people have student debt and they might not talk about it because in our country, it's hard to talk about our financial stress. So we need you. We need you to help us. We feel that the best way this is going to happen is that if we all spread the word of mouth from trusted ambassadors, meaning you, to your communities. Senator Schumer talked about sending to churches. That's one of the community groups we hope to reach out to, but we want you to join us. So hopefully in the chat, Cody's sharing a form and we'll share this after the fact too. But the goal is to spread the word about student debt cancellation to help others. We have a great in-depth toolkit with sample emails, graphics, social media posts, and we're going to take this step by step. So right now, for the month of September, the biggest thing, or the only thing to do, is to let people know about studentaid.gov/ he's sharing the link. It's like debt relief, one-time cancellation. That is where people can find out more information about this program. Then there is also a subscription form where you can put your email in and make sure to receive notification when the form is ready. We are asking you, if you sign up as an ambassador, to help us get this word out. We will also be having our first ambassador meeting, totally optional, on September 20th. That information will be provided to you if you sign up to be an ambassador, where we will train you and talk to you more and answer any of your questions on how to get the word out. So it's just so important. 43 million is a lot of people. This is not just Student Debt Crisis Center. I know NCLC and so many other groups are doing a ton of work to get the word out. But again, I feel like Uncle Sam, we need you, right? We need you all to step up and help us as much as possible. And we're going to give you all of the tools and information to do that. So here's a quick list of resources. And as Sabrina said, this will be shared with you after the workshop, but just really handy dandy resources, studentaid.gov. Make sure all of your information is up to date. You can also see there if you received a Pell Grant. We are seeing a lot of questions. It doesn't matter how much of a Pell Grant you received, even if it was a small amount, you were a Pell Grant recipient, that qualifies you for an extra $10,000. Here's that long link of studentaid.gov/debt-announcement-1/time-cancellation. Don't worry, we're sending this to you in a follow-up email, especially for folks on the phone. You can, if you just want to skip all this and make sure that you do the subscription form, which is putting in your email and checking a box that you want student loan updates. That's the very first box in the form. That will make sure that you get the form when they send it out right away in early October. And then for our public service workers, PSLF.gov, and make sure you fill out the PSLF form before October 31st to get all time counted. Okay, we tried a little bit over, but we have a good 25 minutes plus to take your questions. Cody, what do we have?
Yeah, thank you all for submitting your questions. I see, I think, a good amount of trends. So I pulled some questions that I think are going to be helpful to a lot of folks. So I'm going to start at the top of my list here. The first question is about the Pell Grant piece. And Larry said that they received a Pell Grant. It was a very small amount. It was just $200. And they're asking, is that enough for them to qualify for the $20,000 in debt cancellation?
Yeah. It's any amount at any time. And another question, so Larry may not have this question, but there are some other folks that may be wondering, well, wait a second, I got a Pell Grant for undergrad. I paid off my undergrad debt. Does it still apply to my grad school loan? And the answer there is also yes.
That's awesome. I know too, and I think this is important for some borrowers that have had debts for a long time. There has been this note about Pell Grants because we're encouraging folks to go to studentaid.gov to look at their account and see the information about their financial aid. But there's going to be some folks with older loans who don't see a Pell Grant, but actually receive them. Is that correct? I think there's a data issue starting in the 90s, right?
That's right. But the Department of Education has said that they have the record of who has received Pell Grants, even if it's doesn't show up on the studentaid.gov website. And so those individuals will still be eligible for the $20,000 of cancellation.
And Cody, to cut in real quick, because I'm seeing so much come through the chat about scams. So I just want to remind everyone, the only thing you can do right now is make sure your loans are up to date. You know, your studentaid.gov is up to date. Sign up for the ed subscription form. I would say at this point, really just trust the .gov email or .gov website. If you see .gov there, that is a government website. A nonprofit, a company cannot have a .gov. And there is, especially for so many, like 36 million people, our loans are on pause. There's nothing that these companies can do for you right now that's better or different than this. So if the Department of Education is not going to call you, they're not, you know, so if somebody's calling you, pretending to be the department or saying they're connected, absolute lie, report them to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But, you know, listen to us, listen to NCLC, listen to the nonprofits in the space. Again, we will not be calling you to tell you about any offers. And just, I know it's so hard because we're all so eager to get cancellation, but be patient. We will keep notifying you, and hopefully our new ambassadors will keep notifying you of what's to come.
And just to add on to that, Natalia, this reminds me that the other thing to flag is if you refinance your federal student loans into a private student loan, you will not be eligible for this cancellation. You cannot undo a refinancing into private student loans. It also means that not only will you not be eligible for this cancellation announcement, you're not eligible for PSLF, you're not eligible for cancellation through income-driven repayment. You lose the flexibilities that are available to you under the federal loan system.
Yep.
And I think that's a common misperception that a lot of people have. And so I don't know what ads you're seeing, and I know they all sound really good, but please remember that you will lose out on these programs if you refinance your federal loan into a private loan.
So Cody, can we talk a little too about the FFEL loans? I know so many borrowers are calling their servicer, especially if you've been making payments during the payment pause. Your servicer is telling you that you do not qualify. I hate to be negative here, but my feeling is they don't want to lose your account. That is completely not true. If you have a federal loan, you can go to studentaid.gov and you can consolidate. This is probably the safest time in history to consolidate. Your credits from IDR, we're being told, will be counted. And so to receive cancellation, you'll have to consolidate through studentaid.gov. That's going to be much easier than calling Navient or Nelnet, who may tell you flat out you don't qualify. Do not listen to them.
And actually, I am going to put a link in the chat here because the Department of Education's information about consolidation is actually really good. The only flag I would have is that folks who suspect that their loans are the byproduct of identity theft or that they are owed a refund, there are some things that you waive if you consolidate your loans. And so I'm going to put this in the chat so that you can look at the Department of Education's consolidation website. But the other kind of nice thing about consolidation is that if you consolidate your loans, you can choose who your student loan servicer is. You send them your consolidation application and you get to choose who services your loans. And so, but I agree. I mean, I think it makes sense for the cancellation announcement to consolidate your FFEL loans into a direct loan. I think it makes sense to take advantage of the income-driven repayment waiver. I see many of you are asking about the recount. If you have a federal family education loan and you consolidate into a direct loan, the pre-consolidation time counts during the waiver, which it normally wouldn't under the regulations. So that's huge. And it also is helpful for people who are seeking public service loan forgiveness cancellation, who have a federal family education loan. They should also consolidate so that because the pre-consolidation time will be counted towards public service loan forgiveness cancellation.
Yeah, you know, when go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm seeing some people say that they're confused. We know this is a lot of information. That's why we're going to continue to do more of these workshops. We have another one on September 22nd. Cody can share the link for that. It often when we've done other workshops, people need to attend a few to really understand. We're trying our hardest, but there's literally hundreds and hundreds of questions coming in. So apologies if we don't get to it. We're going to keep trying to do these workshops to untangle all of this information. So Cody, what else are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm going to make one quick note just to try to simplify the conversation on consolidation, and then we'll go to the next question here. You know, one of the things that's included in the fact sheets from the federal government is kind of a simple way to think about this. If you have already been receiving pandemic relief, meaning your payments have been on pause, you do not need to consolidate. You already have a loan that is ready to go for student debt cancellation. If you're one of those borrowers that has not automatically received payment pause during the pandemic, then you have the type of loan that needs to be consolidated. And that's kind of a way to just simplify it, because I know as soon as we talk about some borrowers consolidating, we certainly get questions from folks who say, do we all need to? And the answer is no, not everyone will need to do this. All right, I saw a lot of questions that are, I think, very intuitive, and the answer is a bit complex. I'm going to share a resource to answer this, I think. But a lot of folks have asked, if I have multiple loans and perhaps maybe they even have different interest rates, can I pick which loans will receive student debt cancellation first? You know, can I decide how this is going to be dispersed? I'm going to drop in the chat, and then Kira and Natalia, if you have anything to add here, please feel free. But the Department of Education has provided some guidance in their FAQ page about how they're going to disperse loans. And they kind of a hierarchy of different situations in which they will address first, and then they'll kind of work their way down the chain. So it's a bit complicated. And so I'm not sure we can really dive into all those details right now. But in the chat, I'm going to share with you the Department of Education's FAQ page. And for anyone curious about that question, please go there and take a look at the different scenarios they're describing there.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing this FAQ page. We were just talking before we all started. This is our North Star. This is, and they will be updating questions. They've done a better job than in the past of being very thorough to answer your questions. If you find something is there that is not being answered, please let us know and we will try to get them to add it. Cody, I'm seeing a lot of questions about refund.
Yes, that was a question we received from a lot of folks, including, looks like Kristen asked this question. So yeah, we should address what folks are hearing about requesting a refund on payments they made during the pandemic.
So here's the deal. If you have a loan that was eligible for the payment pause, and you made payments anyway, either because you forgot about auto debit or because you were voluntarily making payments, you can call your servicer and ask for a refund of all payments made. And they will do it. They will act on it. I mean, it's really that simple. I think the hardest part is probably waiting to talk to the customer service rep on the phone. But yes, you can request a refund of payments made during the payment pause.
I would just say that if you just be careful with it. If you make over 125, if you're not applicable for it, you might not want to request a refund. Remember, if you are requesting the refund, the amount refunded to you will be added back to your balance. So we have had people that are, maybe owe 28 or owed 28, they paid 8 down during this payment pause. They'll get the rest canceled out. You probably don't want to request the refund. So this is really a case by case basis. But yes, if you paid and you want your money back and you qualify for cancellation, you need to call your servicer. There's not a form for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, great point, Natalia, that this will be added back to folks' balances. Because I think I've gotten emails that folks think I can get $10,000 in cancellation and I'll get a refund on my payments. It's not a refund in the sense that you're going to have those payments erased. You're just going to get your money back and it's going to be added back to your principal balance. And that's a really important piece. You cannot get more than 10 or 20,000 in cancellation based on what circumstance you qualify for. So just underlining that, because I think it's an important detail that a lot of folks have asked about.
And another question I keep seeing, and I just want to stress this, finally, yes, this does include Parent Plus loans. Parent Plus loans are student loans, parents are included. You heard at the top, Sabrina's family, kind of what Kira was saying, this is per borrower. Sabrina got debt relief, or is going to get debt relief. Her sister's going to get debt relief, and so are her parents up to $10,000 or $10,000 if they qualify. So this is huge for families that took out debt together. And Cody, I know you've always talked about how your debt has been a multi-generational, thing for your whole family to come in. So yes, Parent Plus loans are included.
And just one additional caveat on that one, for Parent Plus borrowers, it turns on the parent's income. So it's all about the borrower's income. And if the parent received a Pell Grant when they were going to college, then they'll be eligible for the $20,000. But it all turns on what the parent's income situation is and whether or not they received a Pell Grant.
Yeah,
Great.
Kira, I think related to that too, I did see a few folks in the question chat box ask, can I get $10,000 canceled for my own student loans for my education, and then also another 10 canceled for the Parent Plus loans that I took out for my children?
No, unfortunately, it's $10,000 cumulatively. So there's no division when if you took on debt for your own education and then you took on additional debt for your child's education. No, you're just getting $10,000 applied to everything. Like we said, it's in this sort of cascading series that's been posted on the Department of Education's FAQ page. You don't get to like double dip there.
Oh, go ahead, Natalia.
I was going to say, I am seeing some questions about state taxes. And on that, I just want to say this is one of the things, because none of us are tax professionals, we really can't answer on specific. There is no federal tax for this. It will vary state by state. I will also say really great advocates are working with state legislatures to try. So I don't know if it's fully decided even in your state, but we're not going to address that further, only to not add confusion. But there are no federal taxes for this cancellation.
Yeah, very important detail. I think I saw at least a handful of folks asking that because I know it's certainly in the headlines right now. We were talking about Parent Plus loans. I want to go to the other side here, and this was a question from Jill. And Jill just wanted to clarify, can a current student receive student debt cancellation on loans that they already have, and perhaps maybe even on loans that have yet to be dispersed?
Great question. So there is a cutoff date, which is June 30th of 2022 this year. So sadly, that doesn't really incorporate incoming freshmen in that respect. It all has to do with your loan disbursement date. But on the flip side, yeah. And what the department's telling us is they're going to do a data match with, I believe it's 6 million people, where they'll get automatic cancellation. But I don't know about you, but I always want to dot all my I's and cross all my T's. So I still think everyone should fill out the application, regardless if you are one of those data match people. They will, if you are a dependent, they will be taking your parents' income. But if, we know all students, I myself was a student and not a dependent, that if you're not a dependent, then they'll be looking at your income. But yes, also a really good win that this incorporates, current students as well.
But yeah, apply. Don't assume anything. Apply. Hopefully it's just a safety. But you don't want to be at the end of next year thinking, oh yeah, I thought I was going to get that automatic application of cancellation and then be left out.
And the application should, I just saw your question, Royce. I know we're saying apply. It's not there yet. We don't have an application yet. It won't be there till early to mid-October. We will, if you're signed up for this workshop, we will notify everyone, but then you can also go to the Department of Ed's subscription page and make sure to put in your email address, and then the department will notify you as soon as it becomes live. And if anyone tells you there's an application, they're lying until early October, until you hear it from the Department of Ed. All right, Curdy, we have a few more minutes. I want to keep taking as many questions as we can.
Yeah, there's definitely a few more that I think are really important and I see coming up over and over again. This was a question I saw that came through the chat on the YouTube live stream, but borrowers want to know what we're talking about today. Is this the student debt relief for public service workers, or is this something else entirely? I think there's still some confusion about what exists out there for borrowers right now.
So there are so many great announcements that have come out. I understand that you're confused. We're talking about the $10,000 or $20,000 of cancellation that was announced 2 weeks ago now. That is the primary thing that we're talking about. However, there are other relief initiatives that are currently in motion. So we have cancellation in one pool, then we have the public service loan forgiveness waiver, which creates extra flexibilities for people who have been doing public service work for 10 years to get to cancellation. And I'm sure I shared a blog post in the chat about the PSLF waiver, but there's more information. In addition, there's an income-driven repayment waiver. So that because when you reach 20 or 25 years in income-driven repayment plans, your loans also get canceled. And so that makes more time eligible. That counts towards cancellation. And then, am I forgetting anything, Cody? I mean, there's so many, it's hard to keep track of everything.
And to clarify, there is a PSLF form, a public service loan forgiveness form, that is up and available at pslf.gov. So that's something, if you're a public service worker, and I've seen this question in the chat, so real quick again, any level of government, state, local, federal government qualifies. Nonprofit, teachers, if you work at a nonprofit hospital, that will qualify. It really just matters who pays you. So if it's any levels of the government, or if you're paid by a nonprofit. So this means custodial workers and administrative assistants at schools or churches or nonprofit hospitals also qualify. It's not the job you're doing, it's who's paying.
Right. And there's a thing called the PSLF help tool that will pre-fill out the PSLF application form. It's also called an employer certification form because you're certifying that you worked in qualifying employment. And here, sometimes the help tool will say that your employer they're not sure of your eligibility, or you might not be eligible. There's no harm in applying. Apply. Yep. And if you got denied previously, you can still apply now.
One thing with that form, because some people are getting stopped up, ask your employer what their EIN number is. You can also find that online. That's the employer identification number. People are getting stopped up with that tool. Not to worry, there are different ways to search, but you can also ask your employer or your HR department, and they will give you that number. There's nothing secret or inappropriate about asking for that number.
And one other question that folks might have after we end this webinar today is, well, can I apply for something like PSLF? Or I really think my school misled me when I was enrolling and I wanted to apply for borrower defense, but can I apply for that and the cancellation? Like, what's the deal? And you can apply for both PSLF cancellation and this $10,000 or $20,000 of cancellation, you can have applications in for multiple forms of administrative relief. And so I think I wish everybody would just like spend some time clicking around the studentaid.gov website. It's so confusing. This is why you have student loan lawyers like me. Like, we have to have lawyers to navigate the system. And that's a conversation for another day. So I get that it's confusing. However, there are these paths to relief, and you can and should take advantage of them and inform yourself about what exists.
Great. We have a few more minutes, and I'm happy to stay on a little bit. I know, Kira, you might have to jump, but yes, we can stay on a little bit more to take some questions, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
So what else do we have?
A lot of folks really, I think people are definitely hearing you need to apply for this once the form comes out. But Sonia believes that they may be one of these borrowers that already has some financial information on record, which would mean that they could receive relief automatically. Can we just kind of describe maybe a little more clearly who we anticipate those individuals are, just to kind of clear the air, because it's only a small subset of borrowers who would get this relief automatically.
So you have two groups of people, and it's all people who submitted income information in the last 2 years. This is very important. Just 2 years, not forever, just 2 years. So it's people who recertified their income for an income-driven repayment plan in the last 2 years, some folks were getting emails from their servicers telling them to recertify their income. The deadline to recertify income was extended for many people who were subject to the payment pause. These things are complicated, but all you need to know is if you recertified your income for an income-driven repayment plan in the last 2 years, the department might be able to automate relief. And the other group of people is folks who are in school who were submitting a FAFSA form. The department may also have income information for them. But again, it's only in the last 2 years. It's not ever. And so that's why I think you really, want to keep yourself covered on every base. And so apply.
Yeah. And for folks that have to hop off at the hour, just want to remind you, if you want to help us untangle all this confusion for other people in your community, in your networks, we are launching our Student Debt Crisis Center Ambassador Program, where we will be giving you toolkits, sample emails, shareables, special, meetings to get the word out. We need you to help us. We have to reach millions and millions of people, and the only way to do that is with a vast volunteer network. So we really encourage you to join our Student Debt Crisis Center Ambassador Program. Cody's sharing the link again. And with that, we can take a couple more questions. Cody?
While Cody's looking for the next question, I will also say, I just jumped into the content because I was so excited to talk to all of you about cancellation. This is my favorite part of my job. There's nothing better than saying, yes, you're going to get your loans canceled. But this victory is because of you. It is because of how hard you had fought. It is because of how much courage you had in sharing your story. And now we have the shared opportunity to rebuild what our student loan system and what our higher education system looks like. But we can't do that without all of you. And so I am so excited that the Student Debt Crisis Center is starting this ambassador program, because we really, really need you. And so if you're called to do it, I really hope you sign up today.
Yeah, Kira, again, just thank you so much. We learn. I am not a lawyer, and that's often something a lot of advocates say, but you are, and I'm so happy that you dedicated your time to being a student debt attorney, because we need people that are also really holding their feet to the fire and making sure that borrowers are protected. And, NCLC is a wonderful resource for folks that need help as well. So, thank you so much. If you have to hop, but Cody and I will stay on to take a few more questions, and really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalia. I can stay for just like 1 or 2 more minutes.
Okay. All right, Cody, most important questions.
Yeah, I saw a question that finally popped up that is actually a really important one. And this was about loans that aren't necessarily in repayment. Can a borrower qualify for this relief if they're in default, or perhaps they're in their grace period because they just left their college program. Who qualifies for this, and do they have to be in repayment is the question.
Great question. Yes, default counts. This is also one of those. I primarily work on behalf of low-income borrowers, and I worry, the thing that has kept me up night after night when I think about repayment restarting is what happens to the folks who are in default, who couldn't pay before. And so it's really exciting that this cancellation announcement applies to people who were in default before the payment pause started before, and have been in default if they had a commercial fail. This is the same is true for folks who are in their grace period. They will also be eligible for this relief. For folks who are delinquent, who maybe had a period where they weren't paying, they're also eligible. For folks in deferment and forbearance, they're also eligible for this cancellation. The only place where there's a limit is for that disbursement date, that June of this year cutoff date, and that it doesn't apply to future loans that are taken out.
And I saw some questions about retirement. So even if you're retired, of course, for cancellation, definitely counts. And right now, until October 31st, with public service loan forgiveness, that is one of the things I love the most about this waiver, is it counts if you put in the 10 years and then you retired, and that's 10 years since 2007. We know so many of you have worked more before that, but that's when the program started. You can apply. And this is really, we've seen so many teachers get their full debt amount wiped out, retired teachers. So if you put in those 10 years and you retired, when in doubt, apply. If you take anything from this, you can apply right now for the public service loan forgiveness waiver that is available, and you can apply in October when the cancellation waiver is. There's no harm in applying. See how much money you can get canceled and wiped out of your debt.
Mm-hmm.
I saw another question. I realized we haven't answered this piece, but once the application does come out, how long do folks have to apply to be able to receive this debt cancellation?
So we've heard that it's going to be open for about a year, so until the end of 2023.
And I will say we will keep fighting to extend that date. There isn't a firm cutoff date yet. What we are telling people is you can apply all through 2023. But the department is saying if you apply by November 15th of this year, we're back into 2022, then you will be able to receive your canceled amount before payments resume. And yeah, so that's just really important to note that, you know, especially for those 20 million plus people that will see their debt wiped out completely, you won't have to return to repayment if you filed by November 15th. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks it will take to process their request. Anytime we work with the Department of Education, we encourage people to apply as soon as possible. They're, you know, going to be inundated with this. You want to be first in line and rush to apply as soon as that form is available.
I think that's right. I mean, I also think it's worth highlighting for folks who are sort of on the outside watching this, where they're like, "Whoa, this looks really complicated and really confusing." That we're working with the Department of Education, we're working with the administration to make this process as seamless as possible for borrowers. They're working really, really hard, and so it's not to say that everything's going to go perfectly, but I'm like cautiously optimistic about how things are going to go. And so again. Yeah. Apply, you know?
And then for folks that just joined or joined late, there is no application right now. You can go to Ed subscription link, which we'll share again, put in your email. I see Sabrina Calazans just shared that. That's where you can be notified of, you know, when the form comes out. And we will be sending all of this information and links after this workshop, including just another plug to sign up for our Student Debt Crisis Center Ambassador Program. As Kira said, we're here because of you. I mean, I always say that when we started this org, it was from reading hundreds and then thousands of your stories. That's what keeps me going every day, is seeing how we can help you, and you getting so loud that made all the difference this year in getting debt canceled. So we know that you are the trusted messengers in your community, so we need you to help spread the word. All right, and with that, I think, Cody, one more question, and then we all have to wrap up, but not to worry, there will be another workshop on September 22nd, and we will keep doing these until we get everyone relief.
Yeah, I'm going to just address one more question, I think, about the confusion between all the different forgiveness programs. And so I'm seeing again, people are saying, hey, I applied for public service loan forgiveness a few months ago. I was denied. Am I supposed to apply for this now too? And I think we can just spend one more minute really clarifying to folks that there are several programs going on here at the same time that they should be eligible for. So Natalia, do you want to maybe jump in with some additional comments there, and I can also share some thoughts?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat. What was?
Yeah, well, there's folks in the chat who are asking once again, is this on top of public service loan forgiveness?
Yes,
applied,
yes, this is not instead. All the programs are still there. Public service loan forgiveness, income driven repayment, defense to repayment. Those all exist on top of debt cancellation. Applying for debt cancellation will not disqualify you from any of those programs. The goal for a lot is to combine all of these, right, to get as much debt and as much relief as possible. And we will have updates on the programs, especially income driven repayment, as we get closer to resuming repayment. In December, or in January, excuse me, January 1st.
Yeah, and not only can a borrower qualify for these different programs, one thing I want to clarify is that each of these programs has different qualifying factors. So for the borrowers that just chatted saying, hey, I qualified for, or I applied for PSLF and I was rejected, that doesn't mean that you don't qualify for this cancellation. Each one of these programs has different rules and different qualifications. You should pursue all of them if you can, but you should also not be discouraged if for whatever reason you're not eligible for one, but you feel that you're likely eligible for the other.
Right.
Yeah.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So you want to try to apply for as much as you think you might be eligible for.
Thank you all for the kind words in the chat. It's wonderful to be on this side of things and be talking to you about debt cancellation. And as Sabrina said at the top, we know that not everyone is getting their debt canceled, and we are going to keep fighting for every single dollar. But we also, as Senator Schumer said, want to take a moment to be like, this is awesome, y'all. This is a really big step forward. And I'll just say it, if they can cancel debt once, they can cancel it again. And we will keep pushing them to do that. But often you get more bees with honey, right? So we want to be positive. We want to spread the word about that and trust that great lawyers like Kira and her staff at NCLC and others are going to be holding their feet to the fire. So we really appreciate you all so much. Thank you all for this. There will be resources sent to you, more workshops, and I hope to see a lot of you on our first ambassador call on September 20th. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.